Hello everyone and welcome back to From Our Basement Gaming.
Hi everyone.
We are back with part 23 of our Legend of Zelda Adventures of Link Let's Play.
That we are. And do not adjust your screens. I did some strength training as Link. Because I was worried that I was not strong enough to take on either Thunderbird or Darkheart, whatever his name is.
Yes, we assumed the name was Darkheart, but we actually could not remember.
Yes, because it could be Thunderbird, because that would also make sense, because he's this evil bird demon that when he uses thunder, he's suddenly weak enough to hurt.
Yes, and when I had tried to look up Darkheart, Legend of Zelda Adventure of Link, he did not come up.
Right.
And when I did Final Boss, somebody else came up, so I'm like, eh? So that's why we're like, we don't know if that's the right name. So.
Right.
But it could just also be that this game, despite having many elements that constantly show up in the future games, is criminally under-talked about.
Yeah, I know there was a time when a lot of people were not happy with this game.
Yeah, when this game was a little bit newer, people were like, oh, it's too different, I don't like it. Yeah. Some people were like, it's too difficult, I don't like it. 'Cause, you know, there are two types of fans when it comes to difficult games. They're either like, yes, this is a great challenge, I am up for this, let's do this. And then there are the fans that are like, no, this is too unfairly hard, I am not cool with this, there's not enough of a difficulty curve, it's just way too difficult. And, you know, there are people who are like both. Now me, I'm used to struggling with pretty much every game I play, with a few exceptions. So I'm just, you know, with difficult games, I'm just like, okay. you know, because everything is difficult for me. Not everything, I'm being a little hard on myself, but a lot of games are difficult for me, so I'm just kind of like, eh.
Which is peculiar and understandable. I imagine, like, when it first came out, they were just appreciated to have more adventures in Hyrule, but I think in the 90s and in the decade after the 90s, they were too critical about this.
Probably after more games came out afterwards, because they were probably waiting to see, like, wait, is the franchise going in this direction permanently? And then when they found out it didn't, they're like, oh, okay, good, this is much better than that other game, than the sequel that was way too different from the original, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's why. I think especially because of how loved A Link to the Past was.
Yes.
And still is.
Oh, yes.
I think that probably made a lot of people look back and be like, yeah, we didn't like Adventure of Link. This is what we want. And they point to A Link to the Past. That's my guess, though. Obviously I didn't play the game when it first came out, I played it much later.
Neither did I.
And I was not I wasn't, like, interacting with the fans at that time when I played A Link to the Past. I want to say... Sorry, I'm thinking for a minute. I want to say I played A Link to the Past, like, right before Wind Waker came out.
Oh.
I'm thinking...
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it was a case of, I became aware of it after I had played Ocarina of Time.
Oh, interesting.
but I wasn't able to get a hold of it till like maybe around the same time I was still playing Majora's Mask.
Oh.
Like, yeah, it was something where like I wanted it, and then as a surprise I got it. It was given to me for my birthday. So it's another reason that game's really precious to me. It was a birthday gift. And one where like I was like, I didn't know you were paying attention that I wanted that game. So it was really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it is, you know, realizing that it is like, that would make it like my third Zelda game I played, ironically, because it is the third. It is the third Zelda game.
Yeah.
But I didn't really remember because Wind Waker came out shortly after I had played it. So, and then you know, I think I played the first two after that. So still before Twilight Princess came out.
Gotcha.
Because basically, yeah, yeah, I played the first two like maybe a year or two before Twilight Princess came out. Because I remember when the person that lived here with us moved out and took their NES, I ordered my own NES, and it came with some kind of generic racing game, so I actually I wanted to buy more games, but I didn't have a lot, so I bought the first two Zelda games because somebody was selling them as a set.
I find that story fascinating.
Oh, I'm sorry. It came with generic racing game and Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah.
So, yes. Though that person who moved out also had a Genesis. To give you an idea of how important Echo the Dolphin was to me, she was aware how much I loved Echo the Dolphin, and she felt like she was never going to play it again, so she actually left it for me.
Wow.
I did end up getting another copy. I don't remember what happened to her copy, but I think it just wasn't working well. And around that time I found out about and bought Tides of Time. Because unlike the first Echo the Dolphin game, Tides of Time was not one that they were really talking about or marketing at all after the fact. Which makes no sense to me, because when you talk to the fans, they all tend to like Tides of Time better.
I remember hearing that.
Yet on all of the like ports, it's always just the first one.
Yeah.
Even the Nintendo Switch does not have Tides of Time. Nintendo, put Echo the Dolphin Tides of Time on the Switch. Please.
Yeah.
I don't even know if the Wii had Tides of Time. And they had Echo Jr. Did they?
I can't remember. I thought they did.
I hope so, because then they would have done one better than Sony and Xbox 360.
Alright.
But hey, why the heck isn't it on Nintendo Switch Online yet?
Perfect.
Moment of truth.
Yeah, I feel good about this. This is much better than earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The only downside is it takes a huge amount of damage.
Yeah. Oof.
But I feel better about it now.
Okay, good, good. Let's do this. I believe in you.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, not that bad, actually.
I also love how this game inexplicably has elevators.
Me too.
we are probably it's never really made clear when time period wise Hyrule exists, but it doesn't feel like a time period that would have elevators, even primitive elevators.
Right.
Well, that would be a fun thing to look up, is to find out when the first elevators existed.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
And it just also stands out because I think this is the only Zelda game with elevators.
I think so too, yeah.
Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. And tell me which Zelda game has elevators. Does the CDI... I'm thinking the Zelda CDI games might have elevators, but that's kind of cheating, I think.
Possibly, yeah.
Because I don't think that's necessarily a canon game anyway.
Yeah, it's debatable canon-wise.
Canon gray area. As far obviously, as far as Hyrule Historia is concerned, it's not canon.
Yeah.
But, you know, Link's crossbow training isn't on the timeline either. I always joke about that. I can't help it.
I don't blame you.
That's why when a certain reviewer put Hyrule Warriors on the timeline, I'm like, that's the equivalent of putting Link's crossbow training on the timeline. I'm sorry, Hyrule Warriors fans, but when your game is a spin-off of a spin-off, yeah.
Yeah. Where does the Zelda cartoon that we talked about fit in the timeline?
Yeah, good question. Probably be like, oh, that's not canon either. Though really, where it would probably fit after Zelda 2, but before Zelda 3.
Yeah.
Because, think of it, Link saves them, you know, Zelda is grateful, the King of Hyrule is grateful, so he lets Link live in the castle and kind of be Zelda's personal knight unofficially.
Yeah, and a thought just hit me. They have the Triforce of Wisdom.
Yeah.
But Ganon still has the Triforce of Power.
And they don't mention a Triforce of Courage, so that is a bit of a wrench in the works.
Yeah.
But he's a kid in the first game.
Right.
So...
Because that's the thing, in Zelda 1, he's like 10 years old. And small.
So maybe it takes place in the middle. It couldn't take place in the middle of Zelda 2 because Zelda has a spell on her where she's asleep. So...
Yes, and it begs the other question, how many Princess Zeldas are there? Zelders.
Zelders? How many Princess Zeldas are there? Zelders.
Yeah. Zelda Scrolls 3. How many Zeldas there are?
Like, that's one of the things that, like, really cracked me up with Hyrule Historia. Like, they clearly are going for there are multiple Zeldas. And, like, they put Zelda 1 and 2, you know, The Legend of Zelda 1 and 2 at the end of the, like, what I'm going to call the apocalyptic timeline. And then they refer to that Zelda as Princess Zelda the First. And I'm like, how is she the first, though? If you put her at the end, how is she the first? Did they, like, stop naming their princesses Zelda at some point, and they're starting again, and, like, it's been so long that they forgot? It just makes no sense. And also, one thing that, you know, this is why I have to read, because something in my eyes that cements A Link to the Past taking place after the first two Zelda games is there is this item that's, I believe it's called the Book of Mudro.
Yes.
That has an ancient language that, you know, it's implied that there are ancient Hylians that spoke this language that's no longer spoken. So, I do not remember where they put A Link to the Past on the timeline. I will have to look. But, yeah, it just, some of that stuff hurts my brain too much.
Hurts me all the time.
I'm like, it's just easier not to connect all your games, please.
Yeah.
Like,
it's easier to think that the first generation of Link and Zelda were retired or older, and that the next generation had to fill in when A Link to the Past happens.
or even easier just for them to be alternate universes of each other. Like, I'm okay with certain games being connected. Like, I could arguably see the first 4 being connected. And the 4th one being a bit of a wild card, because it... Can I say this? Spoiler warning. Link's Awakening ends up being a dream. But the Link that's in that one is very much the A Link to the Past Link. So, and then I guess you could arguably connect seasons, ages, and then A Link Between Worlds. You could connect all of those to the third Zelda. But beyond that, it's kind of a stretch.
Yes.
And, like, you know, there are some obvious ones like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask connect together, because same Link.
Yes.
And, you know, post Wind Waker, they were crafting the stories a little more carefully so they could connect them. So for that reason, Twilight Princess can be connected to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, because there is a character who is canonically implied to be the Link from Ocarina of Time / Majora's Mask.
The hero? You said... I know there are spoilers, but the specific hero of time?
Yeah, I forget what they call him. I think they referred to him as the hero's shadow, or something like that. And it's not much of a spoiler because, like I said, heavily implied in the game. Just with his name, it is heavily implied. So, but what I have to look back at is which... I don't think he is connected to the Majora's Mask Link, but that's the one I have to look at. because the problem is the problem with all of this is with the Link that went back into the past at the end of Ocarina of Time, and you know, goes on to look for Navi, and that's when he happens to literally stumble into, you know, the whole thing with Terramina and Majora's Mask, you know, Skull Kid, all that. We're not exactly clear where he goes after that.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of, it sounds like the backstory of the hero's shadow, or whatever they call him, is that quite tragically he could not pass on because of his something about his frustration of not being remembered for being the hero. So that's why I have to check which freaking timeline they put him on. Like, is this the Link that, you know, went to Terramina, or is this the Link that never went back in time? Is it certainly not the Link that got defeated by Ganon? I know that much.
Right.
So that only leaves 2 branch-offs.
Right.
If it's sounding complicated, it's because it is. So I have to check, and then I can let you know. It might have to wait till the next Zelda game, and hopefully by then I'll have read it, and I could be like, Twilight Princess happens right here, and this is the exact Link that, but anyway, so he hasn't passed on, so he has decided that the way for him to pass on is to teach the next hero what he had learned, you know, his techniques that he had used to defeat Ganon, so that this new Link will be able to defeat Ganon. But here's the other problem, here's the other thing that causes me a lot of head hurt. This whole timeline is based on the curse that, you know, Link will constantly be reincarnated as Link, Zelda as Zelda, Ganon as Ganon, and occasionally other people who are not named Ganon.
Yeah.
Or who originally was Demise anyway. So my problem here, we have something that should shatter the timeline if we are assuming the reincarnation rule. I have never heard of a case where someone, you know, has been reincarnated, especially reincarnated as a new version of themselves, and the ghost of their previous life still exists and interacts with them.
Hi, previous self. I was you back in the day, and I have to teach you the skills.
And Yu-Gi-Oh! Could have been an exception, but in Yu-Gi-Oh!'s case, he was not reborn as a pharaoh, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not an exception to the rule. So, because it's a different life. But anyway, if you believe that theory that Aten reincarnated into Yu-Gi-Oh! But anyway, but to me, if the chosen hero is reincarnated to be another chosen hero, how can the spirit of the previous chosen hero be not quite dead? Like, he is a ghost, but he's physical enough that you can interact with him, so he's sort of undead. Oh my god, no.
Jeez Louise.
And you know, how could he have reincarnated if he wasn't completely dead, if he hadn't moved on? Because my understanding about how, my understanding of how reincarnation usually works is that the spirit has to be dead. I don't think they could be a ghost in terms of the I have regrets and I can't move on. I think that would literally prevent reincarnation. So anyway, that's a big plot hole with connecting all of the games, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a serious plot hole.
I have no issues with the original Hero of Time teaching the new Link. That is, in fact, very wholesome. I'm just saying, for that Link to be the reincarnation of the Link that is teaching him is the problem. If that makes sense. But if we just view them as two different generations of hero, rather than reincarnations of the same hero, then it feels better. It could still work.
Yeah.
Especially since from Wind Waker onward, they were saying it was a thing where a lot of people were naming their sons Link in hopes that the legendary hero would return.
Yes.
So it is reasonable that in this...
if 200 out of 100 kids are Link, one of them has to be the hero.
Yes. So it is reasonable that even in Twilight Princess, that there would be this random kid named Link who does happen to be a chosen one. Because, yeah, I guess statistically you're eventually going to come up with the chosen hero.
Yeah.
But you're also going to have a bunch of Links that aren't the chosen hero.
Here's Link. He's the guy in charge of filing paperwork. This is the other Link. He manages employees. This is Link for HR, and this is Zelda, our claims specialist.
Yeah. And I guess not all of the Hylians bought into that, because you still have other kids that aren't named Link and Zelda. So,
right. So more like 95 out of 100.
Yeah, it's a big mystery too, because we don't even know that if the Twilight Princess Link, even though he lives in Ordon and grows up there and has a father figure, we don't actually have a character who is stated to be his father, or a character that's stated to be his mother. So he kind of comes across as like this orphan that everybody just took in and they raise him because that's how the people in that village are. You know, everybody's a big family, you know, they all help each other out.
Yep.
There are very noisy sirens.
Yeah. It was very freaky, because it got smoky on when I was getting here.
Yeah, you know, we've had a lot of, like, fires in businesses near here.
Yeah.
And somebody was supposing that some of them are set on purpose for... I hope that's not the case. I hope it's just...
very bad.
I hope it's just the rumor mill getting out of control.
Yeah.
Because doing it on purpose for insurance purposes, that is illegal.
Yeah.
I do not recommend. Please do not do that.
Correct. And I apologize, my leg cramped up.
It's okay.
Okay.
Alright, one more try, and then we'll have to stop.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully next time, if not this time.
Yes. I'm hoping. questions.
I feel like we've been here forever.
It feels it.
Yes.
It can be done though.
Yeah. But I kind of doubt, for example, that Denny's set that fire on purpose.
Yeah.
Because they tried to stay there. Oh, that poor Denny's in our town.
Yes.
I remember going in there afterwards, and they were trying to function as normal. I'm guessing somebody came in and said, oh, it's fine. But then maybe whoever made that decision got scolded because all of a sudden it was closed. So I'm like, oh great, so we ate in there and it might not have been safe anymore. Because I do remember it smelled smoky. Like, it did not smell good. So I'm like, I think in that case they weren't doing it on purpose because they were still trying to function as a restaurant, so... But yeah, that was like a big deal because, you know, it was kind of close to our house.
Yeah, and it was a fairly popular restaurant, I thought.
Yeah. At least with the older population, even if maybe the kids moved on.
Yeah.
Well, crap. I guess we'll stop here.
Yeah.
Or, well... Okay, one more time. One more time, guys.
Yes, it's been a challenge.
Yes.
A big challenge, if you will.
It just throws everything at you.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Everything but the kitchen sink, almost.
I just want to get to the boss. Leave me alone.
Yeah, leave Link alone.
And they're like, no, you will never get to our boss.
Yeah. Kind of makes me wonder if Ganon was Weasley too much, and I think this is a good starting point for today's episode.
Alright, bye guys.
Have a great one, everybody.